Yo, what's good, guys? It's your boy Tony B, and I'm back with another video today. We got Mark Cuban, what have you done? So this is a little backstory of what happened in that situation that made Steve Nash leave the Mavericks to go to the Phoenix Suns. You know what I'm saying? Because Steve Nash and Dirk Nowitzki together, that could did some good things. They was pretty good when they was together, especially like in 2003. But we finna see the behind the scenes on why kind of Mark Cuban let him go. So yeah, I kind of really don't know about it. And yeah, let's check it out.
That's a lot of money to offer a 30-year-old point guard. Especially one whose playing style has an intense, all-out, who cares about my body, I'm gonna live forever or die trying aspect to it. Turns out it was too much money for Mark Cuban and the Mavs to match the offer and keep their all-star starting point guard. Cuban looked at the facts in front of him and said, Nash can't keep up this level of play much longer. Oh, come on! This is still Mark Cuban talking. No. Any Shark Tank conventions that can turn back time coming up? No?
Mark Cuban says letting Steve Nash go was the biggest mistake as an owner. What was a bigger mistake? Letting Steve Nash go or letting Jalen Brunson go? For Mark Cuban. We all know the biggest mistake in Dallas Mavericks history is trading Luka Doncic, but they had some pretty minor ones too. Man.
Come on! Okay, it's me, Clara, talking again. In 2004, Steve Nash walked out of the Mavericks locker room and immediately played the best basketball of his life, changing the way the game is played and leaving the Mavericks forever wondering, what if? Mark Cuban refusing to match the Suns' offer for Steve Nash was a big deal. Hello! Wanted to plug the Patreon real quick.
No ad, baby.
Nash getting this stupid money offer was not anticipated. The Mavs' 04 offseason was supposed to be boring. Art Garcia, Mavs beat writer for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, took a vacation during free agency because he was so confident nothing was going to happen.
That's crazy.
Steve Nash was a free agent, and yeah, he was going to test the waters, but he wasn't going to go anywhere. He loved Dallas. He and Dirk Nowitzki joined the stinky PU Mavericks in 1998 via the same big old...
The Mavericks was so bad in the 90s, dog. I did my research the other day. Bro, they was so bad. And it's crazy for Dallas sports. The Cowboys had their best decade or best time ever winning in the 90s. But the Mavericks had their worst decade in the 90s. It's kind of crazy. So tell me down below in the comments if you're a Dallas Mavericks fan in the 90s, or that's a Dallas fan in general for sports teams. How was it rooting for the Cowboys, who was at the peak of their franchise in the 90s, and then also rooting for the Dallas Mavericks, who was at the worst time in their franchise history? Tell me down below.
Draft night trade. Dirk was a rookie, Nash was entering his third year, and they were both blonde. The team didn't improve instantly. But Steve and Dirk developed a nice little friendship, which likely wasn't much solace for long-suffering Mavs fans. Try talking about basketball. But before too long, that off-court chemistry showed up on the court. Before the 02 season, Nash did a photo shoot playing off of the Charles Dickens novel Great Expectations. I don't know if he's supposed to be Dickens, or just someone who reads, or the malnourished orphan Pip, the subject of the book, but it doesn't matter. My point is, you don't get to do a big, dumb photo shoot unless people think your team is going to be very, very good. Yeah. That Nash-Dirk connection played a huge role in the team's ascent, with Michael Finley rounding out their big three. Dirk was the face of the franchise, but if you pan down slightly, you'd also see the smiling face of Steve Nash right beside him. Nash was the heart, the soul, the engine, the glue. He was so good and did so much, mixing metaphors just made sense. Yeah, Dallas had a weird down year right before Nash entered free agency, but nothing getting a proper center and some defense couldn't fix. Probably. Either way, nobody thought Nash would want to leave in free agency. Walk away from his best bud. Walk away from the team he lifted from Stink Town to Fresh-Baked Bread Town. That's the best smell. Nash had promised owner Mark Cuban he'd give him the chance to match any offer. Nash was an unrestricted free agent. He didn't have to do that. Reporters, pack your bags and head to Hawaii on your own dime. Free agency is going to be a non-event in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And then Phoenix spoiled the vacation. They threw a lottery-winning type contract at Steve Nash. They threw a general consensus overpayment at Steve Nash. And, as promised, Steve Nash brought the offer to Cuban, giving the brash young owner a choice. Match it or don't match it. Actually, there was a third option, which is an interesting what-if to play. Match and sign and trade Nash to the Lakers for Shaq. Dallas...
Shaq did talk about that. I heard about that. Shaq in Dallas because I think Shaq got a place in Dallas, right? Like, he was actually kind of wanted to come here before he went to Miami. So, like, let me hear this.
Needed a true center. Shaq was the best center in the league. He and the Lakers had had enough of each other, and Shaq said he wanted to play in Dallas. LA wanted Dirk for Shaq. That wasn't going to happen.
Oh, no.
However, there was a lot of chatter that the Mavs were loading up on assets with Nash as the headliner to try and trade for Shaq. On draft night 04, Dallas traded away Anton Jameson for a bunch of assets, including...
I think that would have been better for the Lakers because the Lakers... For Shaq, they eventually got Lamar Odom and Caron Butler. Bro, getting a prime Steve Nash, like, to replace Shaq with Kobe, that would have been a way better offer.
A lottery pick point guard. Why did they need a lottery pick point guard?
But it depends
Steve
if
Nash
wanted to go to LA
Perhaps
at that time.
Because Nash was going to another show. Now, there are a lot of reasons the Nash and company trade for Shaq wouldn't work out. The Mavs claimed it wasn't part of their plan. Steve would have to agree to go to LA, and he didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
And
okay,
LA would only trade Shaq for Dirk, not a Nash package. So like I said, a fun game of what if, but likely not a decision that weighed heavily on Cuban. To match or not to match? That was the question plaguing Cuban as he went about his day-to-day life as a billionaire. So, as he programmed his robot butler to iron his t-shirts or something. Let's lay out the argument with as much clarity as said robot butler did on that balmy Texas evening in June 2004. The case for matching the offer, all the stuff I've said so far, about him being the reason the team...
Their heart and soul, their give everything guy and key component to locker room harmony.
Team rose from the doldrums of the league to a Western Conference power banging on the finals door, except for last year, but they can rebound from that. Basketball players love to rebound. The case against matching, well, here's the thing. Old Stevie Boy was old. He was 30, nearly 30 and a half when Phoenix offered him that lucrative, and here's the sticking point, long-term contract. And here is where playing through a fractured spine actually works against him. Did I mention that he did that in his first year with the Mavs? Dedicated fellow. Okay, put that in the case for real quick. Okay, now we'll also put it in the case against. Putting his body on the line night after night was bound to catch up with him sooner or later, and by later we all mean before he's 36, right? The Mavericks medical team told Cuban not to match the offer. That had to be hard to ignore. It was a short-term versus long-term decision. Let him walk and save money and cap space for the future, or overpay Steve now for the chance to win a title in the short term, and who cares about the future? We live in the now. But speaking of now, what if the most recent season, with its first-round exit, was the trajectory of the team rather than a blip easily recovered from? What if the championship window on the Big Three was closing? Could a big wad of cash really hold the window open? Was the window even open wide enough to fit a big wad of cash in there? And yeah, Dallas would need a replacement experienced point guard to help out rookie Devin Harris and promising second-year guard Marquise Daniels. But Daniels was a starter by the end of his rookie year and had a great postseason. And let's not forget, the Spurs won a title 2 seasons prior with a second-year point guard. So come on, anything is possible. In the end, Cuban let the guy who was about to have back-to-back MVP seasons walk. It's tempting to be like, Cuban, you moron, because we have hindsight making us so smart, but at the time, a lot of people thought Cuban made the right call. By a tiny margin, Mavs fans dedicated enough to vote in a newspaper poll supported Cuban's call. The other 47% of poll voting fans, they were screaming, Cuban, you moron. There was a contingent that found it quite easy to blame Mark Cuban, actually. There was even a great "now we're never gonna get Shaq" reaction, but come on, that feels like you're just shitting on Cuban for fun. That wasn't gonna happen anyway. Another faulty argument was, great, we don't even get anything in return for Nash. But Dallas did get something in return. Saved money. A boring prize on the surface. But with that saved money, Cuban went out and secured Eric Dampier, a true center, which is what everyone said Dallas needed. They also landed Jason Terry to replace Steve.
Yeah, Jason
Terry. It didn't
Terry.
lead to immediate success. Coach Don Nelson was kind of like, where's Nash? I don't want to talk to new people. A sentiment I completely relate to. The team seemed stuck in good, not great territory, and Nelson resigned from coaching with 18 games left in the season. Meanwhile, Nash was having the best season of his career. He was MVP and also leading a revolution in the NBA with the Suns' system of fast breaks and three-pointers. The Suns went from 29 wins to the Western Conference Finals in one season. Gosh, Nash was doing a lot in the short term.
I think they played each other in the playoffs, right?
Part of getting to the Western Conference Finals involved defeating Dallas in the conference semis. The 31-year-old Nash was brilliant in that series, and
Steve Nash had 48 points? Bro, I gotta watch some highlights, I'm not gonna lie.
Mark Cuban looked less than brilliant. Nash was so good, the media was saying Cuban effed up choosing to build around Dirk. It should have been Nash. The Suns looked like the future of the West, and the Mavs looked like they'd be on the outside forever. Lucky for Cuban's reputation and self-esteem and wallet and life, that's not what went down. While Nash continued his brilliance, the Mavs actually defeated the Suns in the 2006 Western Conference Finals. Cuban was forgiven. Probably helped that Jason Terry and Dampier were key contributors. Dallas didn't win the finals in 2006, but Cuban eventually traded a package that included Dampier for a package that included Tyson Chandler. And the new iteration of the Dallas Big Three got a title in 2011.
What about Jason
Steve
Kidd?
Nash never won a title. Sure, he had some legendary success with an outsized impact on the sport itself, ushering in the era of small ball, three-point happy, pace and space offense, but that's not a ring. Which I don't bring up to tease Steve Nash, nor to say Mark Cuban made the right call. Cuban himself doesn't think he made the right call. The what-ifs and what-could-have-beens of Cuban's decision not to match the Suns' offer are long and winding. If Nash and Dirk had never parted, would Nowitzki have developed like he did? Could Steve have reached such heights in the Mavericks system? Would they have both been better? Would the title have come earlier? Would there have been more than one? Would the league look different? Would there be a small ball revolution? We'll never know for sure without a time machine. So, without further ado, Sharks, may I present Clara Morris Time Machine. It also says time on this side.
Man, that video was pretty interesting, I'm not gonna lie. How I feel about it, I think it was best for both parties. Eventually, the Mavericks got their ring, and I think, which wasn't talked about in the video, Jason Kidd. I think Jason Kidd fit better with Dirk than Steve Nash did, because he was an elite defender too, and it just really helped him, and he was kind of like a slower point guard. I think Steve Nash really loved that high tempo offense. Which not saying Dirk couldn't have did that, but I think Dirk likes working in a much slower pace offense so he can set up his shot and go to his go-to mid-range fadeaway, as we know. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, let's see what the comments saying. Mavs learned their lesson and never trade a legendary point guard just to avoid paying him in big bucks ever again. They'll trade Cooper, bro. No, don't say that, bro. If they ever trade Cooper Flag, bro, I will hate this franchise for my life, bro. Don't you dare, bro. But we have a new regime now in Masai Ujiri, so I think we're straight. Someone said it's not the biggest mistake anymore. Yeah, I don't think it's not a big deal anymore. Probably at the time, yeah. But I think until they won their title, it wasn't really a big mistake anymore. I think it was perfect. I don't think he would have became an MVP in Dallas because he was playing alongside of Dirk. So yeah, I think for both parties it ended up being pretty good. So yeah, what do y'all think about this video, guys? Tell me down below. Where were y'all when Steve Nash went to the Phoenix Suns? How were y'all feeling, Dallas Mavericks fans? And yeah, comment down below. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll be back for more. Peace.